WoW Killer is a production of amove.tv. Check out amove TV for many more podcasts, multiple about Blizzard games. And for more of Taliesin's WoW coverage, check out Taliesin and Evitel on YouTube and twitch.tv. Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is WoW Killer. That's right, we're back. We didn't skip launch week. You skipped launch week. What are you talking about? What do you know? What do you know, listener, that I'm accosting at the beginning of the show?
Listen, we had an amazing plan for launch week. We had it all planned out. We were going to be like, okay, so what we're going to do is, obviously, Shadowlands is out, like, you know, the day after the game is actually kind of live, right? So we were, and we talked about this on the show. We were like, well, we'll do the show whilst playing Shadowlands. It will be like a live reaction show, you know, and that'll be our topic, playing Shadowlands and talking about stuff as we play Shadowlands. It'll be incredibly meta. It'll break the fourth wall. It'll be awesome. And that was the worst idea we've ever had. The worst idea we've ever had. That was never going to work. I was up all day playing on Tuesday, and then when Wednesday rolled around, and I hadn't made any videos or anything like that, and you know, I was behind on streaming, and I was behind on my leveling and stuff. I was like, I was an idiot to think this could ever happen. What were we even thinking? And basically, Garrett, shame on you for encouraging my terrible idea.
I feel very...
And you were like, oh yeah, good idea. You were just like, you were too polite, and you should have called it what it was. You should have called it the worst idea ever in the history of podcasting, which is what it was. And I'm proud of that in a way, because, you know, number one, top of the list, it's always good. And you should have called that out, and you should have been Taliesin, you an idiot. And that won't be happening.
I'm going to stand by it. I want radio play-by-play of that sweet, sweet ore that you're mining, or that herb that you're stopping for, or that skin that you're skinning. I don't know what your professions are on your priest, but you know, that's what I wanted. I wanted us to be like, oh, excuse me, I just found some Phaedrium. I don't know how to pronounce any of these made up ores. It's not even established made up ores like Mithril at this point. We've gone too far, Taliesin, and I don't know what any of this shit is anymore.
It's easy. It's all just like ghost cloth and like angel dust, stuff like that. It's just death stuff, isn't it?
I believe angel dust is something else, but sure.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite MMO.
Yeah.
But,
the reason it on a back alley in Miami
is because I was still leveling. I'm sure you were as well on Wednesday when we record this show. I'm sure you were still leveling.
I'm sorry. Are you level shaming me? It sounds like you're level shaming me.
Have you? Hang on. Maybe I am. Have you reached 60 yet on any character?
Oh yeah. I hit. Then 60.
I'm not level shaming you. Don't worry. I wasn't leveled up on Wednesday either. Because here's the thing: when I level, I like to read all of the quest text, and I like, if I'm streaming, which I did for the entire level experience, then I'm reading all of the voices as well. I'm doing it in the voices. But either way, I like to read the quest text, and there's no way I could do that whilst recording a podcast.
I mean, we could have like audio dramaed that shit and been like, oh, this is my new quest, and I'm going to read it now dramatically. But then we would have probably been more in step than we thought, and then we would just ended up like double reading.
It wouldn't have been good content, and also maybe some copyright issues. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's right. But it's Blizzard. What is this? Nintendo? What are they gonna do? They're gonna come after us.
Activision, well known for fan friendly, player friendly.
I mean, I want to do a bit here, but I also want to be like, you know, when it comes to creating stuff, kind of legitimately, actually, yes.
Yeah, no, genuinely, and like
pretty solid.
That's just a hangover from Blizzard stuff, and yeah, it's well known that one of the reasons the WoW and Blizzard creation sphere is so vibrant is because they are incredibly generous with their assets and their copyrights for things that are just fan made content. Basically, they love all that. They're like, yeah,
I could see them raising issue if I wanted to sit here and crack open a Christie Golden book and read it word for word. But
precisely,
yeah.
Now you'd have an issue with me as well because that would make you a bit of a dick. But.
What if for like the Christmas special, we asked Christie Golden to come on and read the book on our behalf?
Honestly, I think she might also have some copyright issues with that as well, because there are recorded audio versions of those books.
That is fair. That is fair. But I'm just imagining Christie Golden in front of a green screen Yule log, reading a Warcraft book, and it's so wholesome and wonderful that I want it to be a reality.
It would be delightful. and I'd like to put my name down for that, please. On the nice list, not the naughty list. That would be good.
So
thank you.
So we're still figuring this out because, folks, I don't know if you know this, listening at home, but this is the first WoW launch that this podcast has been alive for.
It's almost the first content. It's almost the first new content that this. When did this podcast start?
We were around for the launch of
Night Lotha, I'm sure.
I'm fairly certain we were. Yeah, because we started at the end of last year, didn't we?
Yeah, so that's like the only new content that we've ever had, like, to talk about on this show.
Let's
because that was January last year, and that was it, my friend. Then we've had nothing. No wonder we've had to speak about so much shit. No wonder we've had to make up like things to talk about and talk about. I'll have you know that if WoW was releasing regular content all this time, I wouldn't have had to talk about Batman's nipples. I wouldn't have had to talk about the dick-hungry chicken. I wouldn't have had to talk about any of these things. It would have been laser focused on WoW the whole time, just talking about that. And you'll see, Garrett, now there's a whole new expansion now there's only Shadowlands to do and to talk about. You'll see, laser focused. You've had your last bat nipple. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure you did. You look like you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, where would we be, though, without the dick hungry chicken? Our first episode posted December 4th of last year.
Yeah, okay, so there you go. Nyalotha and the release of 8.3 was literally the only content we've ever had new, apart from the pre-patch stuff, but I'm not sure that really counts. So here we are in a new expansion, Shadowlands it's called. It's World of Warcraft Shadowlands, and hooray, and it's been fun. I don't know, or has it? This is what we'll talk about, I guess. And we were, this show is meant to be a one-topic show, where we choose one topic. And we when we started it, we were like, this is not a news show. We're a World of Warcraft one-topic show. And we choose the topic and we talk about it laser-focused throughout the 5 hours that the show records for or whatever. And we thought, we were like, well, what we want to do is talk about Shadowlands, right? And how it's been, what we're doing, how we're enjoying it. But that's a bit like any old podcast. It's a bit like a news show, isn't it? It's a bit like The Instance or something like that, or whatever that is. And we thought there was a moment where we were genuinely considering like being absolute dickheads and just choosing a topic which was nothing to do with Shadowlands at all. But that would have made us dickheads and also made our show less good, Garrett. So I'm glad we're just going to talk about Shadowlands instead.
It's exactly what I'm
going to Jaina's feet or something.
It's the first expansion launch the show's been around for, and it turns out we would just like to talk about the expansion.
It's weird, isn't it? Almost like we're fans of the game.
Yeah. And also, like, I mean, you're not on the instance. So, and if people tuned in the last instance, all they heard was me yelling at Patrick Beja. So, yeah.
Is that true?
It is actually legitimately true. Yeah.
I mean, it usually is. Yeah. Has Patrick bothered to play yet, or is it doesn't matter?
When we recorded the episode, he was 2 hours in and then asked for no spoilers, and I just straight up yelled at him. So
yeah, totally. And people asking that in chat as well. And so I think it's fair to establish right here at the very beginning that although we're not going to explicitly spoil stuff, I mean, we are talking about the leveling experience, right? And we are talking about our time in Shadowlands so far. So that is going to involve things that are in the game. So basically, I kind of feel like anything that's in the game right now is fair game. So any cinematics that are part of the leveling process or part of like the Endgame that has happened so far, we might talk about it. And if you consider that a spoiler,
Christ, thank you.
Then yes, there are spoilers, maybe. I can't guarantee it. Garrett might just go off on one and talk about something completely different, like the bum hungry chicken or something. So
let me talk to you about that steamy sex scene we got with Denathrius. I'd like to get in there because if you,
I mean, that daddy was choking me. If you like, it kind of was.
He was.
What I'm saying is, I don't consider that a spoiler.
No, but however, I think that's just how they
in the game is spoiler.
I think that's just how they shake hands in Revendreth because the rebel lady did the exact same thing. She also choked me.
It's very true, actually. And also, that is just how they carry you around to different parts of the zone.
That's true. They just grab your. I was going to say they grab your ass by the neck, but that wouldn't be grabbing your ass. They grab your neck by the neck and they drag you wherever it is you want to be.
Or sometimes the face. Sometimes they just hook your face from behind and they just carry you that way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just pop you under the arm and they carry you that way. But more often than not, it's the scruff of the neck.
They just palm you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm that's just how they carry you around in chat. Presumably that's what they do to everyone. I don't know.
Yeah, we are not special. They go so out of their way to make us feel special, constantly being like, well, the text says my name, but their voice says mortal. So, they're trying, man. That was, oh God. Yeah, sorry. You're going to get me off on a tangent about how in BFA, Nathanos could never actually say what he was describing. It's just, look at that horrible creature. It's a bird, Nathanos. You can say it's a bird. Do you not know that does Nathanos not know what birds look like?
Oh shit, we still talking about Nathanos? That dude's dead. There's a whole new expansion, Garrett.
You just made me think of voice things that I find amusing in World of Warcraft. No, but oh dude, yeah, I'm just gonna put on my shill shirt right now.
You did that thing where you couldn't describe the thing you were talking about.
I'm gonna cash my shill check.
Thanos about it. You were just like, the thing I hate about Thanos is never says what he means. Can't just call a thing. And then you were like, well, I'm
gonna cash my shill check 10 minutes into this episode and just be like, this is like a special expansion, right? It's there. It feels good. Like, it feels special. It feels not BFA in all the best ways.
I hear what you're saying, and listen, I'm on the same train as you, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I agree, it does feel special. It feels like an event expansion in the same way, like for me, Legion or Mists did, right? And like it's got a coherent kind of vision and focus, and it just feels like excellent in that way. However, it's week 2. I've gone through the leveling. There's a lot I like about it. I have some concerns as well about kind of like Endgame and things like that, and just scheduling in the future and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, but at the moment, of course, like I'm a fan of World of Warcraft, right? There's very little you can do to make me have a good time more than release a new expansion and allow me to like level up and go through a new story, and everyone's playing at the same time, and my guild chat is vibrant. There's always people wanting to do stuff. There's always like groups forming, anything I want to do. I want to do some Mythic Zeros, and there's a group instantly formed for it, and we're in. I want to do some Torghast. There's a group instantly, and we're in. And we're on Discord, and we're chatting, and we're shooting the shit, and we're catching up, and we're having a lot of fun. And yeah, for me, that's everything that WoW is about. And Shadowlands, at the very least, and it does a lot more than this, but at the very least, it's given me a framework to do that. And everyone's excited. I've got like very intense short-term goals I'm going for at the moment in game. Like today, when this is finished and I go back on stream, I will be making my first legendary of the expansion, my friend. That's what I will be doing. Yeah, you know it. I got my recipe, which dropped in Torghast for me last night. I'm going to complete my Soul Ash quest. I'm going to complete like the other wing of Torghast that I haven't done today yet, and I will have enough Soul Ash to go and get that. And then I'll be going into the raid with a legendary, hoping to get the recipe for the legendary that I actually want that comes from the raid.
I obviously have some concerns as well, but like my first week is so overly positive, and then I also can't help but think of what I refer to. It's a phrase I've been using describing things over in Hearthstone right now. There's a lot of controversy over there. I don't know if you were aware of this, but I keep saying it has good bones, and I think it can. Over there can be adjusted.
There's lots of bones in Shadowlands, Garrett.
Oh, there are. I wasn't even trying to make a punny there, but we just BFA is over, and from the onset, it kind of felt like one of the major systems of the game. There's an issue with this, and it doesn't seem like the type of thing that would be easy to fix, and so on top of just the pure kind of joy I'm getting out of the leveling experience and the story that they're telling and the zones that are going on here, I'm relieved by the systems because it feels like they have good bones, and it feels like if there are certain issues that kind of is like, especially Covenants kind of as they exist, I think my gut reaction to Covenants is that they can tweak it. That it's not kind of inherently terrible like Azerite was in BFA, with the exception of maybe Maldraxxus. that's probably the one, like, to me, glaring issue with it is just Fleshcraft is so completely terrible and horrendous. I don't know who thought that would be a good idea. But other than that, it's so nice to not be looking at it like, oh, this is a horrendous mistake that we're never going to be able to fix for 2 years, is it? Oh, no.
Yeah, I agree. And there are some marked differences in the systems between Shadowlands and BFA, which I feel like we'll get to. But I want to talk about your leveling experience and your first week experience first, Garrett. So, I assume you played quite intensely, right?
I would just like to shout, oh my God, I missed linear storytelling in World of Warcraft.
It felt good, didn't it?
It really did.
It felt really nice.
It really did. Which is funny. Like, we're both 60. I'm assuming you, like me, hit 60 long before you were actually done with Revendreth's main quest line, but I'm also going to assume that you, like me, are not a terrible person and completed the quest line.
Of course I completed the quest line. What, you didn't complete it?
No, I did. Oh. I said, I also assume you're like me. And then,
you can't get onto Endgame unless you complete it, right?
Oh, so, that's I didn't know that. I just was like,
you thought you were just doing a good thing. You were doing it, and you were I'm a good person.
Every expansion up until this point, I have dinged and immediately just been like, I'm done. Whatever's going on, I don't give a shit. I'm off to go grind gear. I have just dropped whatever I was doing. Abandoned every quest.
I love the way you were patting yourself on the back about that. You were like, "Oh, look at me finishing the quest line."
I had a feeling.
Person. I'm amazing. Do you know why? It's because I'm a very popular content creator, and I'm going to need to be able to talk about this. So, I mean, that's why I'm doing this, because it's my job. I'm a good person. I'm good at my job. Little did you know, you had no choice, and you had to do it anyway.
Well, that's I had an inkling that was the case, but I just want to see it through to the end. Even though I think the final little arc, the final little zone is probably my least favorite of all of them across the entire Shadowlands leveling experience.
Tell me about it. Okay, so wait, before we get to that, what was your favorite moment from leveling?
Boy, I hate to be a basic Warcraft bitch, but
no, you don't. You love it.
The Ysera reveal, man. I even knew it was coming. Nice. It was spoiled for me. And like multiple times on this very show, I talked about how, I've got alpha access. I'm just testing Torghast. I'm not going to go do any quests. I don't want to spoil them for myself. I still had Ysera spoiled for me.
Sorry, dude.
But it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't friggin' matter. I had a major plot point from the most recent episode of Mandalorian spoiled for me before I watched it, because they put it up at 3 a.m. for me. And it didn't matter. When it played out, it still was like, this is amazing. And when Ysera played out, I was just like, damn it, this is great. And it's making me feel great, things. And it may have
really well. And like there's a really good it kind of shows what MMOs are good at in terms of storytelling. I feel like that zone, and I thought the questing kind of outstayed its welcome a little bit in Narthenweald, I thought, but the Ysera stuff at the end really saved it. And having a character who died in such a way, like 2 expansions ago, come back in such a fitting and unforced way, and it being so triumphant and cool and awesome, and having some kind of mystery and stuff tied to it as well, brilliant. Only MMOs can do that. Only perpetual games can do that.
It had a serious ripple effect for me too, because and part of this is me being soulless as well, but more on that in a second. It had this ripple effect where I swear, Taliesin, the absolute last covenant I was considering joining was Ardenweald. And here I am as a proud member of Night Fae.
That's what your wings.
That's what I ended up going with, and I did not see it coming. I did, however. I really, really, really wanted to join Maldraxxus, and then I just I made it through this entire leveling zone without once using Fleshcraft, because I did use it once and was like, oh, this is crap. And so I just, as much as I loved Maldraxxus, and I would give that a really close second place to kind of going through Ardenweald and seeing the Ysera quest play out. Boy, at a mechanical level, I couldn't be less interested in Fleshcraft.
What about your specific ability though?
For
Maldraxxus.
Oh, for Maldraxxus, I don't even remember what it was.
What class are you again?
Warrior.
It's pretty good. It's fun. But yeah,
what was it?
You probably made the right choice.
Legitimately cannot remember what it was.
It's the one where you put the banner down and
God, come on, man. How
yeah.
boring is that? You put a banner down.
I think it's pretty good, man.
No,
I think it's quite engaging.
So
but there we go. Anyway,
I get another shockwave as a Night Fae, man. It's amazing. It's incredible. Putting a banner down.
It's not as good as the execute, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
The execute is amazing, and that was really hard for me to do. But I once again, this is like the third time this has happened in a year span, rediscovered my love for tanking. Because I was just tanking all the dungeons during my leveling, and I was like, I want a solid tanking ability, and it's either the Kyrian or the Night Fae, and I just liked the Night Faes a little bit more. So that and
I think that's great.
Ysera hype tipped me over, and now I'm
And it's certainly a really, really lovely zone to be kind of based in, because that's one of the things I like about the Covenant system is how obviously you do get sent all over the place, and the how different all the zones are, because they're all extremes, right? Each one is a theme turned up to 11, and they're so different. And so when you're running around to new world quests and everything, like there is like a rich variety in just what your eyeballs are looking at the whole time, and how you're interacting with the environment, and also the different types of music and stuff as well, which I really love. But I do like how the Covenant system means that the questing and stuff is skewed towards your zone. Like your home zone.
And I thought I immediately wasn't going to like it. Jury's still out. I may still get a little burnout on, Ardenweald as a zone, but when I first kind of like studied up on the Covenant systems and found out that was going to be the case, you were kind of like, whatever Covenant you went with was going to be your home base. I recoiled from it. I was just like, I'm going to get real burnout on this like immediately. And I haven't. I like it. And it's nice to hang out there. And I'm curious once I go over to alts, like I could, for some reason, as much as I love Maldraxxus, I'm like, will it just get old just being surrounded by like brown bones like all the time? But I don't know. That zone really impressed me though, as a whole. Even though there's, I think like a quarter of the map I haven't even seen yet in Maldraxxus.
I know,
actually all of them.
I think it's fantastic. And some of it is because they are literally the bit where the dungeon is in real life sort of thing.
That's true.
But some of it is literally just places I've never been. Yeah. Particularly in Bastion. There's these huge swathes of Bastion that I've never been to at all and are still grayed out on my map. And I know they're full of side quests and stuff as well. And because I didn't do a single side quest the entire time I leveled up. I had war mode on. So I got, and it was an alliance character that I was leveling first of all, because that's my main. Yep. So I had 30% extra XP for completing quests and killing stuff because of that. And it meant that without doing a single side quest, I did one, but I didn't hand it in. I was level 60 with 3 chapters of Revendreth to go. And that is a long ass zone, man.
I don't think I was.
So I've got pretty much every side quest in the game still to do, which is great because when I'm world questing, and I've got to do them because I need the rep and stuff, and also I want Lawmaster, but in the short term, I need the rep. And when I'm doing it, there's a world quest to do, and quite often there is like the side quest version of that world quest, which is also there. So you get to a new, if it's somewhere you've never been, like you get there, and Clea is there, and she's like, "Oh, look, we use this area to raise pets, and you should feed the pets and stuff." And so I do the quest, and it teaches me about the thing, and then I do the side quest at the side. Sorry, I do the side quest, which teaches me about the thing, and then I do the world quest at the same time. And it's like 2 birds, 1 stone. I'm learning about an area, doing the proper questing there, and doing a world quest there at the same time. It feels great. It feels really awesome to be able to kind of mix up world quests and actual kind of like leftover questing as well. It feels really good. I like it.
Yeah, and I think it's great. Like, you're definitely further ahead than me. I'm nowhere near crafting my first legendary, even though I found one of the better ones for warriors, which is a bit of a bummer. But I played like all the Blizzard games except for Overwatch, and still I feel like I played a decent amount. And like Ardenweald is the only zone I've seen every spot of. That's it. Yeah. Like in the other 3 zones I still have massive chunks of the map that I haven't seen, and that's not even getting into the Maw, which there's quite a bit of the Maw I haven't seen.
Well, and the thing about like with Ardenweald, it's not just that you've seen it all. You are actively working to kind of add things to it, right? So you're building your teleportation network, and you're building your anima conductor, and like, you know, spawning bosses or treasures in various parts of the map and stuff like that. And you know, you're doing story quests there as well, to kind of teach you how to gather the different resources and stuff, and there are story quests there when you open the new chapter of the Covenant campaign, which will happen for you this week. You're probably not as behind on the legendary thing as you think you are. Like, what's your soul ash count at the moment?
Over 600, I think.
Yeah, you're a bit behind then.
Yeah, I'm a bit behind. I've basically only played solo. I did my first, like, I did a batch of heroics the other night with some friends. It's the first time I've grouped up with anyone and been on voice chat.
Oh wow, awesome.
So I was soloing Torghast, and I got, like, by the time I tried to push in from 10 to 15, it was just getting my butt kicked. Like, I was just like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, fair. Because I've been doing a lot of Torghast with my buddies, and like in guild and on stream, and going into Torghast solo is super fun and like very relaxing, because you just go and you're just killing stuff, you're just wandering through. It's not, the layout for some of them isn't randomized. I've noticed sometimes I've been in like a couple in a row, and the layout of the same place is the same, but the baddies are randomized, and some of them the layout is randomized anyway, and I go through and it's fun, but those like layer 3s of Torghast, those are no joke. When you get to the final boss of those, if you're solo, if you've been unlucky and you haven't got like super good powers, or you're not a class that just is really good in Torghast, like mage or paladin or something, then those things kick your ass, like seriously. So I kind of had to go in with a group, and going in with a group of 5 in Torghast is exquisite. It's super fun. First of all, you're on comms with 5 people, so that's just entertaining, and it makes you like have more fun, and you're a bit more patient and stuff like that. You're not just blasting through. And secondly, it greatly increases the chances that one of you is going to get an amazing delete everything build. Like, because there's always a chance that you're going to get an amazing delete everything build in Torghast, in which case you're on easy street. But if there's 5 of you, your chances of one of you getting one of those delete everything builds is increased by 5 times, you know, so you're like, oh, okay. And it does make it a whole lot easier, and a lot more fun as a result. So I blast through it in a group of 5. Solo, I found the upper reaches and soul forges, actually the final boss at the end on level 3, I found quite difficult.
It's really seems to depend on like you said, your class, but also the abilities that you get if you're trying to solo, because like I had an easier time with 5 through 10 than I did 1 through 5, just because of the abilities that I got. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts there. But I mean, I'm behind for other reasons too. I was like, I'm really enjoying Hearthstone despite all the Reddit being on fire. The game is actually pretty fun right now. But that's like my other kind of positive takeaway from Shadowlands is there was already, you know, Azerite aside, there were already entire chunks of BFA that by the end of the first week I was like, I hate this and never want to do it again. And then the big thing was island expeditions. Like I couldn't stand them. Whereas Shadowlands, I'm looking at it and like the closest thing I have to a complaint is there's too much to do, and I'm just trying to focus on one character right now. But I actually want to do all of the things, and that's why it almost feels like a negative thing. It's like, well, there's all this stuff to do. I feel like I can't actually keep up with it right now while playing other games, and also it's finals week right now. But yeah, here I am, 33, back in school. But I don't know, like it's still a net positive. It's like, well, I actually want to do it, and that's why I feel like I'm missing out.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm really one of the big takeaways for me is the Covenants, and I knew I was going to enjoy the Covenant system. It always appealed to me right from the very beginning. And getting there and joining my Covenant was exactly what I expected it to be. It felt like the order halls. It was really cool. You had the added bonus of, you know, you had to wait until max level to do it, and you get to choose, unlike with your order hall, which one you go to and stuff like that. So, you know, you had some say in what characters you're going to be hanging around with and things. And like, I went Venthyr on my main as I had planned to do, and I was amazed at how much I was willing to like live my my covenant and how much I already associate my character with that covenant, and how I'm like, yeah, this covenant is awesome and perfect for this character. And I love being here. I love working towards it. I love building it up. I feel proud of it in the same way that I, more so probably than I felt in Legion with all the Order Hall and artifact stuff. And that association of the character with something you've chosen is super cool, and I really love it. And my FOMO at the moment is coming from the fact that I want to be doing that with the other covenants on other characters, but I just don't have the time to kind of like do that right now.
It's an interesting. You just brought up an interesting point, because like overall, I think my gut reaction is that I like the class Order Hall campaigns more. But there's so much of that that's weighted to the Order Hall campaigns I personally experienced.
Sure.
And you just made me think of something just this second that I hadn't really considered before, which is, you know, the Order Hall campaign and that experience was bespoke to the class, and therefore, like, you may not have seen like what you might have been your favorite thing in Legion. You know, if you just didn't play that class, you didn't experience that class Order Hall. So you, like, through the Covenant system and through getting to pick which Covenant you go to, you have a lot more agency in that side of things. So if you want to see the Covenant specific side of things, the only barrier is choosing one of them, and you can, you know, change your choice if you still want to only stay on one character, and then that's not even getting into Threads of Fate.
Yeah. Totally.
In that way, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that until now, but because like I loved the Death Knight Order Hall campaign, but as I've mentioned ad nauseum on the show, I hate Breath of Tindergosa more than anything, and the other specs just don't really appeal to me. Frost DK is for me the fantasy of the class, and so I was loving the lore and the role play and all of that in Legion, and just hating my minute to minute gameplay. I am playing a class that I am thrilled with right now, and experiencing the Covenant that I decided I just wanted to experience.
Oh, me too. And actually, a lot of the reason I'm having so much fun in Shadowlands right now is because I am playing Priest, and both Discipline, which I'm playing in dungeons and stuff, and Shadow, which I'm playing in most of the open world content, and which I leveled in mostly, except when there was some PvP that needed doing. If I was out in the world and there was some PvP going down and some idiot attacked me and ganked me or whatever, I was like, let me just change over to Discipline Priest and teach this guy a lesson. And which did impact my leveling and did make me level a little bit slower, but it's nice to be able to do. But both Discipline and Shadow for me at the moment are just exquisite to play and super fun. And like, I'm actually just, you know, really enjoying pressing the buttons and doing all that. So yeah, that's a big part of how much fun I've had as well, I think. And in fact, when I've come to decide which character I'm going to level next, I'm kind of hovering over casters and things, and I'm just going, it doesn't appeal to me so much right now. I think it's just because Shadow is bossing it, and Shadow just feels good to press buttons for at the moment.
Yeah, I have not been able to like stick with a range class in forever. I've been Paladin for so long, but my first main was a Hunter, and it was for years, from vanilla until halfway through Wrath. But I don't know. I just can't do it. I just been Paladin for a really long time, the Death Knight, and now I'm on Warrior for the first time ever. I've always had Warrior as one of my main alts, but I've never started an expansion as Warrior, and I'm just having a really good time. It's
a blast.
Yeah.
Are you playing mostly Fury or Arms?
Mostly Fury for solo stuff, and then swapping over to Protection anytime I go do dungeons.
Nice. Oh, you're a good guildie. You're a good guy to have around. Look at you. That was me thinking you were selfish and you were just going to DPS it up, but no. Amazing. I underestimated you. Oh, anyway, sorry. Yeah, but I'm really surprised by how much I'm loving the Covenants. And so far, I'm really enjoying the exclusive Covenant ability. I know this was like the big issue before the expansion started, and like it was what most of the controversy was around in the lead up to Shadowlands. And there are problems in that system which are going to be more apparent later on, definitely. This idea of having Covenant abilities that are exclusive to the Covenant that you choose for your class, which means, you know, like a priest that plays Venthyr simply won't have access to the same abilities across the board that a priest who plays Necrolords will. And is that fun? Is that okay? Yeah, you can change, but you can't do that indefinitely, and you can't do that efficiently after a while. So, I mean, there was a big argument before Shadowlands started that they should have been talents that you unlocked on a new talent row that you could then switch interchangeably, like talents, and so that whatever faction, whatever Covenant you went to, you would have access to all of them in some way. How are you feeling about that, Garrett? Because that was a big deal.
Overall, positive. I so badly want the Maldraxxus armor for my warrior that how much I was just completely let down by like actually leveling through Maldraxxus and legitimately forgetting what the abilities even were because they just bored me so deeply. Really, really bummed me out. Like I hemmed and hawed. I literally was sitting there looking at the 4 emissaries for the 4 covenants going, God damn it, I really want that armor, but I just hate the abilities, and I just don't think I would like the gameplay as much if I went with Maldraxxus. That was a bummer, for sure. But I have had such a good time since going with the the Night Fae, in a way that I was not expecting. And then all of the ripple effects of that, of like this feeling like I'm in a club. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I know I make car analogies all the time, but like I'll try and keep this general. You have like a kind of a vaguely unique car. You see it out, you wave to each other. It's like the Jeep wave is a thing here in the States. You know, when I am in Ouroboros and someone else turns into a beautiful little blue magic fox and I turn into a blue magic fox, there's been moments where we both just kind of stop and we select each other, and it's like it's the closest thing to like a WoW wave besides actually going out of your way to type /wave. Like it's just like this feeling of camaraderie and like I'm in a club, and it's not something that hit me that I thought was going to be a thing that happened, and it also feels really specific to Night Fae because of how often people are turning into blue animals.
It's so very visible, yeah.
If you're in the Night Fae, and so like in that way, I'm just like, oh yeah, Night Fae for life, mother effers, and that was not something I was expecting to experience. And so that's yeah.
And I like the exclusivity. I like the exclusivity, and I like that it extends into a couple of abilities as well, and soulbinds and things like that. For me, that kind of solidifies it as an idea, and it makes it have that kind of personal investment into it as well. Like I'm the same as you when I'm in a dungeon or whatever, and someone pops off with Door of Shadows or something. I'm like, yeah, my man, let's do it. Yeah, likewise, if I'm doing something with a priest who isn't in Venthyr and went for a different covenant, so they have like literally different abilities to me, I find that super interesting as well. Like if I did a dungeon as Shadow, and there was another Shadow priest in that dungeon, and that Shadow priest was in the Kyrian, and I was in Venthyr, and I was like, all right, it is on. This is on. There can be only one priest, and we'll see which covenant is the best, and it's going to be my covenant because that's what we're doing. And that wouldn't work if we had the same abilities, you know, like if it was like, oh, my abilities are the same, but they're red and yours are blue. It just wouldn't have the same kind of impact. And I find that really fun. And one of the things it has fueled so far at the beginning of the expansion, which is what it was always going to do, and which is why I kind of was really looking forward to it, is it has fueled like a lot of conversation, like in game. Like my one thing that's really surprised me is how difficult people found it to choose their covenant. So I've noticed this in guild chat. I've noticed it on Twitter and things like that. And I've noticed it in my stream chat too. Is that people are. They all had their idea about what covenant they wanted to join. I think most people started Shadowlands with a pretty firm idea of which covenant they'd be joining, whether that was based on the aesthetics that they liked or the research that they'd done on the ability, and which one was best for them or what have you. Although it's worth noting that most of them, with some very obvious outliers, Blizzard done quite a good job of making them incredibly close to each other in terms of power.
Yeah, I was doing a lot. I had just kind of avoided it because I find the stuff kind of boring, and also I'm just legitimately not all that interested until the game is live, like properly live, not alpha and beta. Like I just don't, and so much can change during the alpha and beta stages that I just don't want to learn the wrong thing. And you know, as much of I'm definitely doing more of the game in my DPS spec, but where I have the most enjoyment is that group content and tanking, and so I've been kind of like looking through Shadowlands through that lens on my warrior, and I've finally started doing my reading and whatever. I don't know, maybe someone out there knows the math better than I, and it's not as close, but it was just like, holy crap, like the Kyrian ability, the Night Fae abilities are like really close to being the best for protection warriors, and I was like, oh, that's freaking fascinating. And then there was an argument for I keep calling it by the zones. What's the vent there? Not the vent here. The Necrolords. there was an argument for the Necrolords, but I was just like, Fleshcraft is just so lame. so I got away from that. But like, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's kind of cool that I was actually kind of paralyzed by like, damn it, there's stuff I want from all of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what I've been seeing online. And it's incredibly satisfying. This kind of thing of like, I think, yeah, like I say, most people went in with a pretty firm idea. And in many cases, that was reaffirmed by playing through the content and doing it all. But just as many people, certainly in my guild chat and on my stream and stuff, played through the leveling and then got to Endgame and were like, I don't actually know which covenant to choose, because there are like pretty good reasons for choosing many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it comes back to being like a boon of the linear storytelling. Your first time through is, you were forced to go through each zone with the abilities from that zone, and you got a good feel from it, unless you're me and Maldraxxus and you forgot what they were and never used them. It's good design. Like, and a lot of this, like, I know I keep saying, boy, I miss linear questing, and I may have liked this more in Legion, but I like this more in Shadowlands. Like, at the end of the day, I think, like, I like both. I think there's boons to non-linear storytelling, there's boons to linear storytelling, there's boons to, more class-locked content like what we saw with the Order Halls and Legion, but I also like the flexibility of choice of Covenants. Like, I like both. This feels more like a direct sequel to Legion than BFA ever did to me.
Yeah. Well, I talked about on the weekly reset, one of my main feelings in this first week of playing Shadowlands, and it's something that I got a little bit of on the alpha and beta as well, but I was being very careful not to read too much into it. But I can verify it now. Playing through Shadowlands this first week, it gave me what I call Legion relief. You know that?
Yes,
like,
I watched your weekly.
You didn't just enjoy Legion. There was like a relief, because you were like, oh, it's really good. And then you were like, oh, thank God it's really good. Oh, thank God it's just not terrible. Oh, thank God it's okay. It's good. Everything's going to be all right. And I get that feeling playing in Shadowlands. I'm like, yeah, I'm having fun, but also, oh, thank God. Oh, it's good. Okay, fine. It's good. Oh, thank God.
I am avoiding another car analogy right now. I'm just going to let that one lie. Yeah.
Legion relief. Legion relief.
I had the same.
Not self-relief, Garrett. Legion relief.
I had the same feeling. I really did. And it was like out the gate, like, spending a lot of time with my Kyrian abilities in the first zone. It was just like, because I got really attached to my steward, and honestly, I miss him. That's my other piece of Covenant of sadness, is I miss my steward.
You miss having a slave. Interesting. Very interesting.
No, I mean, fine, Taliesin, if you want to take it. So
good when I had a slave. My slave was great. I'd call my slave, and my slave would come.
That was
and I'd
not
say, slave,
our
give me some
relationship.
drinks. And my slave, without even questioning, would go and get me drinks. Always smiling, always happy to serve.
How do you know I don't pay him? How do you know I don't pay my steward? You don't know the relationship I have with my steward. Frankly, this calls into question your relationship with your steward.
I've got a very interesting relationship with my steward. Which steward did you go for? Do you remember the name?
I'm concerned
or
and
do you
offended.
care that much about them? Oh, I miss my steward whose name I can't even remember.
I cared more about the voice.
Garrett. I'm a very caring slave owner.
I cared more about the voice than I did the name.
You see? You're all like, I am a benevolent slave owner. It's not like a relationship. It's not a slave relationship, Tally. No, I just don't remember their name or birthday. It's fine. It's fine. But I tell you what, Garrett, I remember my steward's name. My steward's name was Appa, and I chose my steward because A, she was called Appa, and B, because she was cleaning the floor when I found her. And I said, come with me, Appa, for I will save you from this life of servitude and put you in another life of servitude, but at least you get to walk around sometimes. You won't have much brooms to do. And she came along. And,
I mean, you're really just describing unpaid internships where you get to travel.
Yeah, well, think about the exposure that steward is getting.
Think about
on my
exposure.
Channel.
I also
okay,
I really like to think now, this entire thing about the name, I like to think that you discounted multiple potential future life partners for yourself based on their name. Just like, your name's Jennifer? Sorry. Strict no Jennifer.
Well, I was like, look, I've already got this channel called Taliesin and Evitel, so basically if your name's not Evitel... I'm gonna have to change my name. Which okay, so your name kind of needs to be Evitel, or at a pinch, Taliesin, and we can work with that.
Whereas I would argue that Taliesin in World of Warcraft, your voice is also your personality, and I care more about personality.
Right, sure. Okay, but anyway, I'm glad. It's interesting that you don't remember your steward's name that you care about so much, but I do. And obviously, her name was Appa, which, is a character from...
I don't remember my steward's name because I didn't choose my steward's name based on another name that I already remember based on a completely unrelated fiction.
So anyway, back to my relationship with my steward, which is very interesting. Obviously, having a steward called Appa, I made a macro to /say yip yip every time I summoned her.
You must be so proud of yourself.
I, as you can tell by how hard I fought to tell this story on this show, because it's taken me a while to get here, but I have. As you can tell, I'm very proud of it.
Well, I hope Appa enjoys their unpaid internship.
Well, I mean, she's enjoying it now. She doesn't have to do anything. She's just chilling out in Bastion now. I never call her. I'm in Venthyr, mate.
On permanent leave.
She got the best job. She's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be this guy's slave now. Oh, he's gone away and he doesn't need me anymore. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you say best job. I say made redundant.
Well, I mean, she gets to chill out in like the Swolkin gym now, doesn't she?
Just pumping iron all day.
Yeah, totally. Which I think she'd appreciate. She had that kind of look about her. I mean, they all do, don't they? In fairness. They're all incredibly swole. Maybe she could actually finally get around to leg day. Maybe she's got that much time now.
I really did enjoy damn near every zone more than I thought. And probably Revendreth less than I thought. Revendreth was the one I was most hyped for. And probably was kind of just the most it was fine, like leaving it.
Yeah, it's the most linear. They're all linear with the story and everything, but Revendreth is the most linear feeling one, and it's because it has to kind of round off the story and everything like that. And I agree. I felt like all the voice acting in that zone, particularly, was an absolute delight. Particularly the kind of the little sledges, like what they call the little slave guys there, but they're not your slaves, so it's okay.
Can we find any other word to describe
Rendell? Rendell is my favorite character in Shadowlands. He's amazing. He's the first person you talk to in Revendreth, and he's like, "All right, then, come on, go on in. Okay."
I absolutely love them.
Good.
They all have
dredgers. Thank you. That's what they're called.
They all have the best names too. Like every single one of them are just hysterical.
But my favorite zone experience was definitely the introduction to Maldraxxus. Like everything about the introduction to that zone was amazing because you've just gone through Bastion, and Bastion's brilliant. It's a really good zone. I know a lot of people again who had their mind changed about Bastion and were very surprised by how much they enjoyed it. And this is what I was saying all the way through beta and alpha. And don't take my word for it. Go back and listen to other episodes of WoW Killer. There's only about 20 odd, but there's probably about 500 hours worth of talking in those episodes.
30 odd, yeah.
Go back and listen to them all, and you'll know. I can prove it. I was saying, look, man, you might think you don't like these zones right now, and you might think there's one's your favorite and others you don't care about. But I promise you, 9 times out of 10, a lot of players are going to go to these zones, they're going to play through them, and their minds will change when they meet the characters and they do the storylines and they're involved in it. And it's been really nice to see that happen in reality, not just because it makes me right and that makes me feel good, but well, okay, yeah, that as well, but also because it's just good to see that happen, and it makes people enjoy it more. And yeah, loads of people did change their mind about Bastion and got really involved in the story and the characters, because some awesome characters in that. But it is all quite chill. There's like this undercurrent of sadness throughout Bastion as well, because it's based on characters who they're good people, and they're they've lived life of service, so they often come with regrets and baggage and stuff, which some manage to lose and go on to become ascended Kyrian. Some don't manage to lose, and that really hurts them, and they suffer for it. Some don't want to lose, and have this other breakaway group and stuff like that. It's incredibly sad. And then you go to Maldraxxus, and like the second you get to Maldraxxus and you're flying past a huge skeleton statue, as the skeleton statue comes into view, looking like Skeletor's castle in He-Man, the first note of music in Maldraxxus plays, which is an electric guitar chord. And then you land and you're in an actual gladiator arena and you're fighting like 100 other people. And there's a lot of NPCs in that arena. And also, I leveled on war mode. Don't know if I mentioned it, but I barely came across any other players in Bastion because I think they knew that they were funneling everyone into the same place at the exact same time. So I think like their sharding was tight AF for Bastion, and they worked really hard to just not mix players up for that, which I think was probably the right thing to do.
I was not playing in war mode, and I still barely saw anyone in Bastion. Just because of like how much phasing is going on in Bastion.
Totally. And I think that was probably the right thing to do. But that went absolutely out the window in Maldraxxus. And the first thing they do is they put you in an arena. And the first thing I saw when I got into that arena were lots of red health bars for enemies everywhere. Like, you know, felt like 50 to 100 of them. It's probably less, but it felt like that. And also lots of different colored health bars to show me lots and lots of hordes running around as well. And I was like, it is on. Let's do this thing. And, you know, you can complete the quest by killing NPCs or player characters. And it was great. And we just went in there and I spent a lot of time in that gladiator arena fighting. It was a 3-way, the second best sort. It was excellent.
It's so 80s metal album art, you know, to
so
the
dumb.
nth degree.
I loved it.
I loved, same. It was again, you know, I mentioned this back when I think we were dipping our toe into the alpha, which was like, I love skull and spike motif of Warcraft, but Maldraxxus looks like it could get boring or would be a little too one note in terms of its aesthetic. And at no point during that leveling was it like, I'm over the zone. No, I loved it. I just wanted to drink it in and it does a good job of switching it up, of going from like the skulls and spikes to the plaguish mushrooms to the like giant monumental stone carved insanity.
And like I think it's the best leveling story as well. I like how it's the only Covenant sanctuary that you feel invested in before you leave. Like that half that story is based around trying to get into the sanctuary.
That's fair. It's also like I think that and Maldraxxus and oh my god, my brain today, dude. I'm so tired. I'm sorry.
Fairies, angels, vampires.
Maldraxxus and Ardenweald, I think, are the only two are the only two zones that feel like they kind of have a final chapter. Like I know what you mean. I love Bastion. Like I like by the end of my leveling, like the end of Revendreth, or, you know, I see the crazy cool cutscene. I'm just like, what the shit happened in Bastion? I saw Uther for like 5 seconds, and that seemed like it was important, and then I never saw him again. They never uttered another word of his existence. I'm just like, what happened in Bastion doesn't have a story. I'm sorry. Like if we want to get into like critiques, Bastion is just a setup for Maldraxxus. It is like a giant.
Nothing Shadowlands didn't last long, did it, Garrett?
Sorry,
we were all like, "Oh, I love Shadowlands," and now Garrett's like, "Oh,
come on,
you know
we're 54 minutes into the recording over here. We'll probably lose some of that in the edit. And all we've done is gush. Can I just for a second complain about the fact that Bastion doesn't really have a story to tell? Like, it's just all it does is it is a massive prologue for Maldraxxus.
Well, you know what? Maybe if you spent a bit more time listening to your slave and paying attention to them, you'd have got a bit more of the story. But no, you were all like, "Oh, here we go. Oh, what was that? What was that little slave?" No, I'm not listening to you.
Well, there's plenty of world. No, dude, there's plenty of world building. Don't get me wrong, but that story like starts and then just fires off into the ether. Yeah,
it's true. It's true. Well, I think Maldraxxus, I think it's got the best structured story because, you know, it's like we need to uncover these 5 runes, right? And then you're doing that. And then just when you're about to do that, by going off to different parts of the zone and completing different objectives, just when you're about to do that, there's a big like betrayal and the House of the Chosen falls. And this very large part of the zone, by the way, which is very well designed and a lot of work has gone into it. And which I was walking about going, oh, we'll spend a lot of time here. Suddenly, you can't spend any time there at all. It's all full of baddies. You can't get anywhere near it if you go there world questing because you get your ass kicked. I don't know, man. Now, call me a conspiracy theorist here, but that place, I remember from when I was there, is very big and has some very differently shaped open areas and rooms and things like that. I mean, that's going to be a raid, right?
I wonder where you're... Oh, okay. Never mind. You already dropped that. I was like, I wonder where you're going with this because I watch Weekly Reset, so I already know where you're going with this. But...
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah.
No.
This show
I was gonna...
stealing the material from the weekly reset.
I was going to tee you up. I was going to tee you up for your beat drop, but you just went ahead and said that you think it's a raid. Yeah, I think it might be a raid too. At the same time, saying this sure seems large and opulent and there's a lot of room for a raid, you're just describing all of Maldraxxus. Everything in Maldraxxus is gigantic.
Yeah, you're quite right, actually. That's very fair. But it just seems like very... And I didn't even notice it until my second time through Maldraxxus on beta. And I was like, yeah, this bit is really good. This House of the Chosen stuff, it's really awesome. This is a great area. It's fantastic. There's a necropolis floating above that we never go anywhere near. It's weird. So I don't know, but I think the story's great. I think the story is probably the story with the most significance for the lore of Shadowlands, kind of beyond the leveling as well, with the Primus and the Rune weapons, and that link to the Helm of Domination and to Frostmourne, and the fact that like the Primus who is missing is like definitely the Rune Carver.
It's right? The same voice actor, and the character's called the Rune Carver, and that entire zone's overarching quest is completing runes in a rune blade. It's just like either it's the same guy, or they want us to think it's the same guy. But there's very or like
little
Uther, they're just like, you think this is important, but no time for that. On to the next thing.
Welcome to War with the Lights.
Yeah.
Expansion number 10.
And I'm hammering on that one because the other big, I think, zone that kind of just ends in a massive, sorry, we'll complete this later, is Revendreth. But that one I'm going easier on because it's teeing up the next raid. It's
leading directly into the raid.
It's leading directly into the raid, and also the rest of the expansion entirely. Because it literally spoilers for the end of Revendreth.
Oh yeah, it's the reveal of the plan, isn't it? Essentially,
literally tees up the Maw. It quite literally leads into the Maw. You watch the Maw.
We now know exactly. You're quite right, and we now know. Well, according to Draven, we now know. Not Draven, sorry. According to Nathria guy. Denathrius, thank you. According to Denathrius, we now know the jailer's plan, which is the jailer wants to eradicate all other kind of realms apart from the realm of death. There will be only death. Which, if you're talking in the terms which I think we understand it as, like the constant conflict between the cosmos, the cosmological forces. Like, we know that the light has attacked Revendreth. We know that the void has attacked Bastion. We know that Maldraxxus has attacked Legion homeworlds. Like, we know there's shit going down, right? If we take it in that context, then it suggests that the jailer is just reclaiming what was taken from him, which is the kind of the mystery and the interest there. That's the stuff we need to find out what's going on. But the overall plan and mission statement does seem to be just to wipe everything else out and have death ruling everything, which is weird because it's not what Sylvanas says. But maybe the jailer is telling different people what they want to hear. And that's what Denathrius wants to hear.
What are you alluding to there with Sylvanas? I'm not picking up on that.
That is a slight spoiler because it's not actually in the game yet. It's in the files, but it's been encrypted.
Oh, okay.
And
gotcha.
It's a conversation. It's not a conversation to say that it's not a spoiler to say that it's a conversation between Anduin and Sylvanas. Because they've already had a conversation, they will continue to have conversations throughout the expansion, I'd imagine, just the situation that they're in. So that it's not a spoiler just to say that, but Sylvanas supposedly explains her motivations in that conversation, and I don't think she really does. I don't think we learn anything. I don't think there's any spoilers in that cinematic at all. Like, she doesn't explain anything that we don't already think that she thinks anyway, in my opinion. So
that makes sense.
Like, I don't think there's any reveals or revelations. So for me, the much bigger one is Denathrius's in that cinematic at the end of Revendreth.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
You know, with all of these, like, I'm pointing out things like I feel a little let down by Bastion's arc because I feel it didn't really have one. It really just comes down to, like, I'm actually interested in the story they're telling and that they teed up. And right now, I think the jailer and kind of the Maw thing is the thing I'm the least interested in, because it's kind of, it's pretty kind of standard villain. Like, I just want the thing that I represent to consume everything. That's really standard for kind of a lot of fiction and definitely Warcraft, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
I'm here for it, by the way.
It works. It works. It works for games. Like, it really does. And there's
especially long-running games like this.
Yes.
A game where like the story's going to unfold over 2 years. Like, I feel like I need we talked so much about this on this channel, but I need that focal point of, this is the baddie, this is what they want, we're going to stop them.
Yeah, and again,
and
like,
you can find nuance, you can find twists within that, but having that as your framework, I feel, is really important.
Yeah, and this is ridiculous. Turn up to 11 fantasy at the end of the day. It's fine. And there's all these other interesting threads with each and every faction we deal with in the Shadowlands, and I think that's why it stands out to me, is because I actually like it, and it was a personal experience for sure, but like in BFA, the whole war campaign, I was like, I just don't care. I'm more interested in what's going on in these actual zones with these factions, with the people that are living here. And I'm also more interested in the lead up to the old gods. The least interesting thing to me was like Sylvanas being a bad guy. I was just like, whatever, we get it. She's bad.
I agree.
So where's this? Like, I'm still cool with it. And then there's also, I keep coming back to, I'm really interested in the story setup, and I'm also having a good time with the gameplay mechanics, because even though like I'm looking at the jailer going, you're a pretty standard bad guy, I'm having a good time going to the maw. It actually does feel threatening, and I'm having a good time in Torghast, and so
I could I want to just go back to a point that you brought up earlier, where you were comparing the Covenant campaigns with the Order Hall campaigns in Legion, and saying that you really enjoyed the Legion Order Hall and like more than the Covenant campaigns. It's worth noting you haven't played the Covenant campaign.
I'm splitting hairs to a certain degree.
I mean, you are on maximum, if you've done everything this week, which I know you haven't. You're on chapter 2 of your Covenant campaign right now, and it's only on chapter 3 that it starts getting unique. So, like, you went Night Fae in the end. I mean, the first chapter of your Covenant campaign is like really good, and because I played the first couple of chapters of Ardenweald, and then I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm going to wait until it's in the game.
Wait, Taliesin, hold on. Can you pause for a moment? Because are you telling me that you, Taliesin, enjoy a Covenant that kicks off your entry with a play? I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's
I
weird,
can't
isn't
believe
it?
that you
So
would find
weird.
that attractive.
And it's very strange, very strange. And it's great for me. Like, I know, obviously some people that work for Blizzard, but I count myself quite friendly with one of the main quest writers for Ardenweald. I think she's brilliant. I think she's really, really good. And I love the quests that she does. She did like most of the Jaina quests in BFA in the opening bits, and like I know that Bastion is Ardenweald is her zone, right? And I think that really comes across, and I there's lots of stuff in that I love, but the play, oh my god, the play is incredible. It's so good. And also, I mean,
it's one of my favorite episodes of Avatar, and I'm so glad to see it in World of Warcraft.
I mean, it's one of my favorite episodes of Avatar as well. Apart from its very strange placement in the series as a whole, isn't it like the penultimate episode or something? And it feels like this.
It's basically your Joss
episode, but it's like literally the third from last episode of the entire show.
I laser focused. F it, I'm going in. It's very Joss Whedon. It's very BioWare. Before the final fight, let's really just let our characters be characters and interact with one another and be human and be people and revel in this before we get on to our giant epic final fight.
Very fair.
And listen, what I want from character-driven drama.
At all. Nothing bad to say. I will not sit here and be lectured by someone that didn't even choose Appa as your Swolkin, okay? About Avatar.
I will not sit here and be lectured by someone who talked a bunch of crap about Korra without finishing it, and then finished it and couldn't stop gushing on Twitter about it.
I think it's wonderful. I think Korra's like almost as good as Avatar, and I don't understand why
it's almost like the thing you were leading into with me and the Covenant campaigns by saying you really judge it if you haven't finished it yet.
Hey, I always really enjoyed it. I always thought Korra was great. It was Evie that didn't love it.
Oh, okay. I guess I misunderstood.
And she got her mind changed by it. Ironically, by season 2, which a lot of people don't like. But Evie loved it. I love too. I think Korra's brilliant. I'd watch Korra right now.
Yeah, I really like the villain from season 1. It was hard for me to get past that, but I like the whole series. But getting back into World of Warcraft on this World of Warcraft podcast. You're absolutely right. I haven't seen the whole Covenant campaign, but I wasn't thinking that technically. I was kind of like going gut reaction now with what I've experienced up to this point, which is 7 days. Well, no, not slightly more than a week with the new expansion. So I was just kind of operating on this episode with this assumption that this is all kind of first impressions.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. But yeah, and that's fair. But I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that in terms of Covenant campaign, you've still got most of it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And by a long way, and it gets much better, obviously, because you haven't even really started.
I have a lot of anxiety.
Chapter 2 of your Covenant campaign, like chapter 1 is finish the story campaign throughout leveling. Chapter 2 is all the Torghast stuff, and it's only chapter 3 that it starts getting unique. So, yeah.
I have a lot of personal anxiety around wanting to see all of it, all 4 covenants, and I'm just like,
oh well, me too, and I'm getting major FOMO about that. So I actually have to like knuckle down, and I don't want to be behind on the Covenant campaign stuff. So I need to level up some. I made the mistake of leveling up my druid through Threads of Fate, and I don't like Threads of Fate. It hasn't worked out for me. I don't like it at all. So my druid is currently stuck because I've moved on to other characters because I got bored of Threads of Fate so quick. So my paladin is like 56 right now.
Oh, you didn't like Threads of Fate? I just
leveling through the campaign again.
Not that I assume everyone that listens to Weekly Reset, but I literally just watched it last night, so it's so fresh in my mind. Yeah, I guess you did mention that on Weekly Reset, but I'm surprised. So what is it with Threads of Fate that's not landing for you? Because I haven't tried it yet, and
I love the idea, and I can see myself liking it more later on, further down the line. So the idea is with Threads of Fate, if you have already completed the story campaign on, it would be your first character through. Then once you've gone through the Maw and you get to Oribos, a guy comes up to you, he floats up to you, and it's all black and white. And he's like, hey, do you want to do the story campaign again, or do you want to do Threads of Fate? And you go, I want to do Threads of Fate, mate. And he's like, all right. And if you choose that, then you get to choose your covenant straight away there and then in Oribos. And you get your covenant ability straight off the bat, level 51, which you'll be when you come out of the Maw. And you're like, yeah, nice one. And then you basically just level through doing world quests and objectives and dungeons and side quests as well. Like all of the story campaign is automatically completed, so none of those quests are up. You can't do them. And that's what you do. And you have a little bar to fill in each zone. And when you complete that bar, you get like, I think about a quarter of a level worth of XP. So it's worth doing. But essentially, it's a lot more freeform. It's a lot more grindy. It's slower because, when you're doing the campaign, you're going from quest to quest to quest. And like you've always got something. And there's always a quest to do. And they're sending you to it. And it's usually pretty nearby. And you're working your way through the zone that way. Whereas this way, you're kind of going, okay. And then you walk over to another world quest. And it's all the way over here. And then you like walk over to another objective and it's all the way over here, and then you do a dungeon and it's like, yeah, so it's just slower. And also because I haven't, remember when I was like creaming earlier about not having done all of the side quests, and I really like doing them with my world quests because it's just super interesting. I don't want to do them on an alt who I'm just blowing through the leveling with. I want to pay attention to them, and I want to do them on my main, and I want doing them on my main to be the first time that I do them. So I'm kind of loath to do the side quests at the moment in Threads of Fate leveling. And I feel like it's making it even slower and more annoying in that case. So yeah, it's just not for me right now. I like the idea. I can see why people would love it. There's going to be people who aren't me who think it's the best thing ever. And so yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. For me, it's not the thing that I want to be leveling in right now. I want to just be blowing through the campaign again, which is what I'm doing on my plan. I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to alts pretty quickly in BFA, and I think I'm coming from a slightly different perspective. I know you play other games, but I really like to jump around and game hop and spend my time in other games as well. So I'm contending with that on a personal level. But like BFA, I swapped to alts pretty quick because once I figured out like what a grind Azerite seemed like it was, and that at least at launch, Island Expeditions was a big part of that. I was just like, all right, this is going to be a casual expansion for me because I don't particularly like the trappings of the end game. I went to alts pretty quickly, but with Shadowlands, I'm just like, I just want to focus. And because not only am I behind, having a legitimately, like a time issue. At least these first couple of weeks. We're gonna hit the holidays, and I'm just gonna be like, "Yay, let's go!" But like, I'm just enjoying my main. I don't want to really step away from it right now, even though at face value, Threads of Fate seems really attractive to me. But hearing that it's slower is a bit of a bummer. It's a technical thing, right? This is kind of, we're getting kind of hyper specific here with another gripe, but boy, our flight paths like spread the F out in an expansion where we don't have the whistle, right? I haven't really actually looked for this, but there's no flight master's whistle.
They want you to build your covenant and open the teleportation network.
That's nice. There's 3 other zones where I'm not in a covenant for. Can you made me think of that? And also, like, dude, okay, again, this is I'm reaching for things to complain about, but it's really cool going through like the portal from Ouroboros to the zones the first time. Flying from one zone to another zone is just absurd. It is ridiculous. Why do I have to pass through Ouroboros every freaking time?
Well, if you have your Hearthstone set to Ouroboros, then you can just hearth there.
Oh, I love hearthing for a flight path. That's my favorite thing. It's the best.
I kind of like it. I got to disagree with you there, man.
I'm sorry. It got old the second time I did it. The second time I did it, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm over this.
But I actually really love flying through Ouroboros every time. I think it's really cool.
It was
this. I just really like it. I think it kind of like, I think Ouroboros does this amazing job of, really being a tentpole for all the other zones and it being the central point and this hub. And it's got beautiful, chill music and it's just really simple and round and kind of grandiose. And I love that we have to keep going through there.
Ouroboros is great, but dude, I just want to knock my world quest out. Stop it. Just take me directly to the next zone. I don't know. I think I mentioned this on the show. One of my only concerns going into this was kind of the cataclysm-esque disjointedness of none of the zones actually bleeding into one another. Like, you can't walk from one zone to the next. And that hasn't bothered me as much as I thought it was, as much as I thought it would, with 2 glaring exceptions. One, I was overflying like flight paths immediately. It was so quickly a sore spot for me. But 2, as much crap as I gave Bastion for and we're done. We're just a tee up for Maldraxxus. The tee up for Maldraxxus is really cool. Maldraxxus spills into Bastion.
Yeah.
And we can't walk into it. We have to go back to Ouroboros and then fly back out. It just seems like it would have been so cool to step over Maldraxxus bleeding into Bastion as like a motif and actually walk into Maldraxxus and kind of step into the theater of pain from there. To me, this is just me wanting to kind of armchair design this partially as a gripe, but also just because I think it would be freaking cool if we went from one zone to the next.
It'd be cool, and there's, like you say, there's good things about it being very island in nature, and bad things as well. One of my favorite moments in BFA leveling was walking over the hill in Tiragard Sound to get to Stormsong Valley. You
crest that mountain ridge, and you just look down.
You went over a mountain ridge. You went past a little kind of waterfall. There was a checkpoint happening in game with people, kind of refugees and stuff, trying to get into Stormsong Valley, or traders or whatever, trying to get there, which you kind of had to help out with and bypass. And that was all part of it. It all just felt really real. And then you walked over the brow of the hill and you just saw Stormsong Valley, and you're like, cool, new zone to adventure in, brilliant. And obviously that can't exist in Shadowlands because of the way the zones are laid out.
And they've done a good job with the lore.
That's something I miss.
They've done a good job with the lore trappings of it too, because you're essentially sorted into your zone, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense for there to be natural travel between them. But then they have the brokers, which is just there's enough. They could have made it work. I don't know. At the end of the day, I think it sticks out more to me just because of how annoyed I am I'm already bored with flight paths being such a massive chunk of my endgame grind.
I think that's fair. Like I say, I quite like it, but you know how I feel about flight paths. So, I like the real-time journey element of MMOs. I like it.
And I really do. The transition from Ouroboros to whatever zone you're going to is awesome. And it's something I've never seen in WoW before. But to me, it has already very quickly worn out its welcome. And nothing else really has. So I think that's, again, why I'm focusing on it, which has been
I think that's very fair.
Episode. Like everything I have mentioned today, like in criticism, I feel like is super minor. Like I want everyone to understand that. Like I'm having an amazing time with this expansion. So
I'm definitely going to concentrate on getting alts up so that I'm not too far behind on the other Covenant campaigns. That's for sure. That's for certain. That's definitely something I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So that's going to have to be something I do in my own time, really. But there's videos to make and stuff like that, and it's like a really busy time, obviously, when you just want to be playing the game all the time. And I really genuinely do just want to be playing the game like all the time because I'm just thoroughly enjoying it. It is quite easy to feel left behind. One of the things that I'm finding quite humorous at the moment is, and I agree with the sentiment, it's just like my situation, my relation to this statement is, a lot of creators and stuff going, yeah, I mean, the great thing about Shadowlands, right, Garrett? Great thing about Shadowlands Endgame, right, is that there's loads to do, okay? But none of it's mandatory, all right? It's not mandatory, it's optional. It's like non-mandatory content, and that's why it's so good. It's like, what the fuck game are you playing? Like, I got loads of mandatory stuff that I haven't done yet, and I feel awful for not having done. What are you even talking about, not mandatory content? I was up until 1 a.m. doing Torghast last night, so I wasn't behind on my Soul Ash. Fuck off, non-mandatory content. There's loads of it.
Yeah, that's but like Torghast is my biggest anxiety right now. I'm like, I'm actually having a hard time pushing it, like without friends, and I'm not always on at the same time as my friends because a lot of my friends are West Coasters.
And I'm like, I've got 3 alts that I feel terrible for not having leveled up yet because I'm missing out on renown, and I'm not on the renown treadmill, and I'm not on the Soul Ash treadmill. Like, get out of my face with this non-mandatory bullshit. Get out. Yeah, there's lots of non-mandatory stuff, but don't give me that get out.
Yeah.
And leave that Soul Ash where it is. You just leave it there.
I know I've been asking to grind reputation through other means for years now because of Pathfinder, but now I would just like to very specifically grind Soul Ash from other means, please, because Torghast is hard and my warrior keeps dying, and I would like to grind dungeons for Soul Ash. Thank you. Or give me a group finder for Torghast.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Just be a world famous streamer like me.
Yeah, man. Hey, speaking.
I mean, you are.
So. You know how you were saying, you just want to play the game. Unsolicited advice for anyone listening that wants to be a content creator. I would highly recommend focusing on one game. Just focus on one game. Don't cast a wide net.
Yeah.
Don't cast a wide net.
We did an Overwatch video once.
Oh, I did an Overwatch podcast once.
Oh.
Yeah.
What made you fall out of love with Overwatch?
Same thing constantly forever.
So instead you just play WoW and Hearthstone?
And like the first major update was like we put Rocket League into Overwatch. And I was just like, if I want to play Rocket League, I'll play Rocket League.
Ooh. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, no, eventually it was just like, this is, I spent so much of that podcast pushing back against Overwatch is just TF2, and I'm like, the most similar way it is TF2, it's just the same first-person shooter game forever. Like, that's the closest thing, the way it reminds me of TF2. I loved TF2, but I just stopped playing it because I got bored.
Well, I'm looking forward to your next podcast, Overwatchers 2.
Nah.
2 over 2 watchy.
Nah. I can fairly confidently say I'll never do another Overwatch show.
Nice. Fair.
Also, not enough skulls and spikes. It was frankly a little too wholesome.
Oh, exactly. Where's the electric guitar?
It was a little too wholesome. I needed a little more like emo, goth, death in my...
Do you know what I would think would improve Overwatch? With each character that you play in Overwatch, you have to decide to join a covenant. And... if you join you say you're Tracer, okay, and you've only got one Tracer per account, right? So you're like, well, my Tracer's going to join the Skull Covenant because Garrett likes skulls, and so you get an ability that other Tracers don't have.
I think what would also improve it would be a third-person view, tab targeting, a lot more cooldown-based abilities. Mounts would be great.
That version of Overwatch literally exists. It's called Heroes of the Storm. It's literally got Overwatch characters in it. What are you even talking about?
I was leading into a joke describing World of Warcraft, but fair. That's isometric, not necessarily. I mean, technically,
also has Overwatch characters in it. In fairness,
technically third person, but that's an isometric camera view, Taliesin, and try and keep up.
dude, if you're looking at someone who isn't you, it's third person. Like, it's an isometric third person, but it's still a third person.
People who agree with me, please tweet at Taliesin and Evitel to inform Taliesin that if you say third person, I do not think isometric. If you say third person video game, I do not think isometric.
You can't. What?
No one calls an RTS a third person camera view. They call it isometric.
No one says it's not third person, though, because that would be wrong, because it clearly is third person. The gaming term you might use to describe that particular game might be isometric top down, but it is also undeniably and like 100% third person. Like,
you are technically correct, but if you say third person video game, I think behind the character immediately. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
The fuck?
None of this matters. None of this matters. We're not talking about Shadowlands.
I don't know, man. Sounds like it fucking matters. Listen how much you're making me sweat.
You are technically correct, but it's just not what I think of.
Right. Okay. Well, look, as long as you've conceded some ground to me, as long as I can be the technically correct guy.
I think you're technically correct, which, as we know, is the most insufferable form of correct.
Yeah, actually, Garrett, I think you'll find...
It is technically third person. Doesn't matter. I'm out. I'm done. So honestly,
anyway, so Shadowlands is good then. You've liked that. Excellent. What a great podcast.
It's good. It's fantastic. One of the questions I did want to ask you and hasn't come up and ties into, some of my concerns about hanging story threads is, do you think they're going to stick landing on all of the hanging story threads they've left?
Have they ever?
Around? Do you think it's even possible? There's so many interesting stories in every zone.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think, as usual, they're not even going to try. And I think we're all going to cry about certain stories that haven't been finished in this expansion and how that means that Blizzard are terrible at storytelling. And we'll completely forget all that when they actually complete the storylines later on. And I think Tyranda's a really good example of that. Look how much we all cried and spat blood when, her story was not finished in BFA, or we treated the unfinished story like it was finished and talked about what an unsatisfying ending to her story that was. It's like, oh no, wait, it's still carrying on in this expansion. How interesting. And now the story's carrying on. Almost like it's a story that spans multiple games and multiple expansions, and that's the thing. And yes, obviously it's nice when you have some nice kind of like full stops and some nice natural kind of resolution.
Excuse me, you're cannibalizing my counterpoints already in your run-on sentence.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fair. No, I'm just giving you a hard time because I was going to be obviously, but I can't stand sequels that are just a tee up for the next movie.
What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Not Empire Strikes Back, which I know is what you're going
fine.
for.
You saw that one coming.
Yep, it's Return of the Jedi. I'm sorry, I don't care. I know it's full of Ewoks and whatnot. I love Return of the Jedi.
Is that something you say is bad about Empire Strikes Back then?
No, that's fair because I think there's still, I think, a natural stopping point for it.
Yeah, granted.
To me, Sylvanas didn't feel like it was a natural stopping point for. You know what? Fair. You know what it is? I think it is splitting hairs because you get an end to Sourfang's story. There is a complete arc there. It's just it's Sourfang's and it's not Sylvanas's, and I think that's okay. You're right. You win. You win, Taliesin.
I mean, technically, I win.
I wouldn't call it one a technical. I would say.
Actually, I think you're fine, Garrett.
Can you get I know you don't wear glasses, but could you get a pair of fake glasses so you can push it up when you deliver these lines? Just bruise the bridge of your nose in your correctness.
No, it's not. It's not glasses that do that anymore. It's the tip tapping of keys.
I'm going to redirect you back to this question though, and say that like I'm with you. I could see Tyrande being one that spins off and gets addressed in a future expansion. There's just still so many threads that are specific to each zone that I'm just like, man, are we really going to have complete arcs for each of these?
Well, the good news is that if you're Shadowlands has an advantage over the zones of, say, BFA or even Legion, in that each one of those zones is also a covenant that has its own specific covenant story campaign, which you will play through as part of that covenant. So you would like to think that certainly they have the resources and they have the opportunity to find like a natural kind of conclusion to those stories, because they have literally a zone specific story, each one of them, which is something that like Tiragard Sound didn't have. And once you were done with Tiragard Sound, you were done with Tiragard Sound. That like it's a leveling zone, right? So yeah, you're based there as your kind of alliance hub, but there's no more story happening there. You're going on to different places and things like that. Whereas Revendreth has got a Covenant campaign that is going to progress for the rest of the expansion and has that perfect opportunity to round off that story and to give it a satisfying ending. So obviously, I don't know if they're going to do that, but the potential to do that, it's easier than the equivalent in other expansions, I would have thought.
Yeah, no, that is fair. And it's not something that irked me in Legion, for example. It's like, well, I understand how like the gameplay confines of having Order Hall campaigns.
Yeah.
And it's part of what makes it cool and unique, and why I think a lot of us have file the Order Hall campaigns away in a really positive place in our brain, unless you were a hunter. So yeah, that's a good point as well. Because you know what? Now that I think about it, to me, Ardenweald had such a nice kind of full arc that now that I'm in it, I'm just like, it's fine. You know, the what I've seen so far of the Covenant campaign for Ardenweald it's okay. It kind of feels pretty standard. I'm the most interested in Bastions because I'm just like, what happened with Uther? He's just like, I'm here. You know who I am. I'm important. Now never see me again. He just Batmaned out of there. I mean, smoke grenade.
There's definitely stuff going down with Uther in the campaign. You'd have thought.
Yeah, which is fine because I think my first alt will be a paladin, and he's totally going to Kyrian.
I played like the opening kind of unique chapter, so chapter 3 of the Bastion campaign, which some people will have now played because it is available now, and it was really good. It was really good, and it was. I played some of the Ardenweald stuff, which was brilliant and addressed a lot of the stuff that we've just been talking about. And I was like, oh yeah, that was really good. And I played the Bastion one. And I was like, I don't need. That's when I decided I didn't need to play anymore, because I was like, these are good. I can trust these campaigns. They're going to be fun. They're going to be cool. So yeah, I think it's great. The storytelling is hitting the mark for me. I do have some concerns. I have concerns about things that are left over from BFA. Really, I'm concerned about scheduling. I'm concerned that after BFA and the way it took so long for content to come out, I'm scared that that's going to happen again. And I'm scared that no matter how good the content is, it doesn't matter if the gap between content updates is too long. Like, you're always going to have a bad memory of it if you are left waiting too long. And something Legion famously got very right, and I think it's something that BFA got very wrong, and it's not something people talk about enough, because I think it's a major problem with BFA. The suggestion is that if we get to level 40 Renown, and then next week after that 9.1 hits, you're looking at a wait of 17 weeks, which is longer than it took 8.1 to come out in BFA, and everyone agreed that 8.1 took too long. So that's a bit of a worry for me, just a residual worry. It's not causing me a problem, but it's there. It's like a tiny little kind of nagging doubt in the back of my head. I'm a bit worried by the alt catch up of Renown, and I think Torghast is going to be a nightmare on for alts and things like that. But then I think it's got that thing of what I count to be very alt friendly, which is I want to play the alts because I want to see the content.
That's what I was going to say. Is I'm significantly more interested in alts than I was in BFA for that. I ended up playing a lot of alts in BFA just because I wasn't all that engaged in the end game. But I feel more pulled to alts here, and I'm having FOMO with alts because I want to see those campaigns. And so that is, to me, is a slight defense. Not everyone even wants to play alts. There's a lot of people that main one character, and to them, a long wait for a 0.1 patch is a major concern. And so I don't want to downplay that, because I completely understand it. And also, as someone who plays instead of other games, I'm kind of by default a main single character player for the most part. But at the same time, there's 3 other unique campaigns that you're not going to see unless you play alts or change covenants, which is its own.
And I'm sure there will be overlap in those campaigns. Or in fact, I know for a fact there is overlap in those campaigns, but you still want to see it from. And that's the thing. Like I love being in Venthyr, and I love my covenant sanctum, and I love helping it build, and I love walking around it, and I love the characters and stuff, and I love being a part of it, and I want that with all the covenants with different characters. So I'm just really enjoying it.
Yeah, same.
And I count that alt friendliness, no matter how difficult it is to actually do.
Do you think we would see like like some patch tweaks in between now and 0.1, like, and especially, I mean, this is piggybacking off of your experience because I haven't tried Threads of Fate yet, but if Threads of Fate is slow, and it seems like everyone in the chat room agrees with you, would it alleviate your concerns for the wait for a 0.1 patch if they shored up Threads of Fate and the speed at which that happens?
Not really, no.
Okay.
It's not really about that. It's just like, it's just, I mean, I'm enjoying the content right now. And I'm super into it with my main, and I'm looking forward to get into it with my alts. But the raid is coming out next week. You know, a lot of people will be done with it by January, like late January. And if we're waiting till April or late March then to have any new content, I just feel like that's maybe, I don't know, tempers will start to fray. People will start getting anxious and a bit like, you know what I'm saying? I just felt it was too long a wait for BFA, and I don't want that long a wait again.
We had this with Legion too. Like it's easy to forget because Legion's looked upon with such reverence, but we were getting impatient even with Legion.
Oh yeah, and that stuff was like, I mean, I think in terms like 7.1 was announced, I think 2 weeks into the expansion or something. Like you had the trailer for Karazhan or something. It was insane, and it was on the PTR like very soon after that. And yeah, they I think it was like something like 8 weeks between 7.0 and 7.1, something stupidly low like that.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
So I mean, are you
all the better for it?
Basing your assumption on BFA's release schedule?
I just don't want it to be the same as BFA's release schedule.
Yeah.
People say 77 days in the chat for Legion, but no, it's actually shorter than that. From the release of Legion to 7.1, it was less than 77 days because it actually went 77 days from the release of the pre-patch to the release of 7.1. That's how quickly 7.1 came. It was madness. It was so quick, and it's brilliant. And obviously, you had people going, "Oh no, it's too soon. It's too soon. I haven't done it." And I was like, "Shut up! Otherwise, we'll get BFA." And look what happened.
I'm always more interested when I feel behind than when I feel ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Frankly.
That overwhelming sense when you hit max level and there's all these different things happening and you don't know which one you should be doing. I love that feeling. That feeling's amazing. Like,
I think I kicked off this episode talking about it. Like I was like, "Oh, there's too much to do, but I actually want to do it."
Yes,
that's exciting.
But anyway, yeah. So I mean, my hopes are very high. I'm like, I feel like I can't stress enough how much I'm enjoying it. And I always like how Scott Johnson calls it the special sauce. And
that's a good way to put it.
Like, yeah, I that's definitely what it is. It's got that at the moment. I'm choosing which things I go after, and I'm kind of.
I can't believe how much it's making me think of Burning Crusade. And
oh really?
It's because and it's just specifically like the aesthetic and like the adventure that we're on. Like these worlds are bonkers. Like it's so unlike what we've seen before. Like remember, you know, having not even being max level, not even being high enough level for it to matter, because I wasn't going to be able to go through the Dark Portal on day one when Burning Crusade launched. But I remember thinking, going to space, that's a bold move for a fantasy game. And it was wild. It was so freaking nuts compared to what vanilla was in terms of aesthetic and in terms of the story that was being told. And that's how I feel in Shadowlands. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to draw all these connections to Legion, which I am. Like a lot, like I said earlier in the show when I stand by it, I think this feels more like a direct Legion sequel.
Yeah.
But in terms of like...
Which is why in many ways it probably wouldn't have worked coming straight after Legion. If we gone from Legion into Shadowlands, would we be enjoying Shadowlands so much? Like, you need a kind of a change. And not like just because what you need is a bad expansion in between the good ones. Otherwise, you don't appreciate the good.
Yeah, right. All right. You're nipping my retort in the bud. So continue. Yeah, I mean that is fair, but at the same time, the systems remind me a lot of Legion, while also feeling like the opposite side of the coin.
Yeah, fair.
But like thinking of it like aesthetically and as almost like if under like through the lens of a role playing game, like if you think of Blizzard as our DMs, it's like this reminds me of Burning Crusade. Like we are in uncharted territory. This is wild. This is absolute wild fantasy we have found ourselves in. And so in that way, like I don't know, it's really firing on all cylinders for me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool. And that kind of into the unknown thing is really interesting because, I have no idea. I think I know where the story is going in terms of, intergalactic disco war and stuff like that. But, I was able to sit down and literally tell you the kind of release schedule of BFA. I was like, even before BFA was released, I was like, I think you're going to have Kultiras and Zandalar literally will be your leveling zones before it was even announced. I was like, and then we'll go to in literally 8.2, we'll go to Nazjatar. And then it will be N'Zoth in the end. And I was like, how you shouldn't be able to do that before the expansion is even announced, And at this stage in 9.0, I couldn't tell you where we're going in 9.1. I'm pretty sure we will be going to a new zone in 9.1, but that could be literally anything. It could be literally anywhere. You have the infinite realms of the Shadowlands. It could be anything. I think we'll end up going where the trader guys are from at some point. And I think we'll be going to a Hellier type zone at some point. But
brokers would make sense because they already have the models, and that's something that's been living in the back of my mind is the practical constraints of it's endless possibilities, but also like, are they going to introduce entirely new races?
Yeah, exactly. And there are Valajar guys in Torghast, interestingly. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and obviously Hellier is an important character in this expansion. So clearly, I think I'd be very surprised if we didn't go to a Hellier type place at some point. Hellier's House 9.1, but they've already said that flying is going to come in an earlier patch in this expansion than it usually does, which would suggest 9.1 or 9.15. And I can't believe they would give us flying without giving us a new zone at the same time that we can't fly in.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, I find it strange that we always look at that as so strictly tied because, like, in Legion, we already had flying, but then Argus came and we just couldn't freaking fly there. And they haven't done it, but I just don't see why they wouldn't experiment with, like, here's a new zone. You'll be able to fly in eventually. You can fly everywhere else, but this is a new zone. You'll have to unlock flying for this zone specifically on its own. That's another way they could play it. They haven't. But I don't see why they couldn't mess with that. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very touchy subject, isn't it? The flying. People get very passionate about it and very defensive about it. And
it's almost like you tweeted out a YouTube comment very recently that felt very passionately about it.
All I said was it was nice to be riding on Maurice, my hippo, again. And this guy went into a diatribe about how I was defending no flying. I was like, dude, I just like my hippo. Just trying to see the light in the darkness. Just trying to see the bright side of things.
I just always assume someone is doing a bit because I refuse to believe there are that boring of human beings that exist that don't understand that it's a joke.
Well, I'm sure many people feel the same about me, so I can't really comment.
They assume everything you say is a bit because they can't.
Yeah, I have to believe that Taliesin is doing a bit because I can't believe he's really that boring.
Well, let me confirm, I am that boring.
I can confirm that too.
So, well, awesome, dude. I think this is as good a place as any. I could continue to talk Shadowlands with you for like 4 hours easy, but.
My God, we had some revelations in this episode, didn't we? I feel like everyone's going to be very educated by this episode. They came away thinking, I wonder what Taliesin and Garrett feel about Shadowlands. I wonder if they like it or if they think it's terrible.
I think they came away.
It's quite good.
They came away shouting at their speakers, going, "Fleshcraft is really good in PvP, you noob."
Is it though?
According to chat, I don't know. There's multiple people saying that in chat, but.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. But I'm enjoying it. I love it. I can't wait to start playing it as soon as this is over, frankly. We should have done that episode where we were playing. We should have done it.
Should we have? Should we have after you said it would be a terrible idea at the beginning of the show?
It was a terrible idea. Stop encouraging me.
It would be. I think we could do it on the talkie bits. I think the single biggest issue with it, and this is serious, not a bit, is just the clicking of mice and keyboards. It would be the hardest part for podcast listeners to get past.
You're right. That's why when I stream, I barely actually play. I would mostly just sit still and talking.
I have to bring in like my
mechanical keyboard. That's the only reason I'm not a top player on stream, and I have to do all my top play in private.
Katie has almost never made a request because something I do annoys her, but I had to switch to red keys or cherry switches because my mechanical keyboard back in my StarCraft 2 days was literally driving her insane.
Nice.
Yeah. And I don't blame her. It was a loud ass keyboard, and I was playing StarCraft. So, well, folks, if you want to write in for our mailbag episodes, be a part of the show, you may do so at wowkillercast@gmail.com. If you want to consume the show through YouTube, go to youtube.com/wowkiller. And Taliesin, if folks are somehow unaware of the fact that you have a wildly successful YouTube channel where you put out videos very, very regularly, where can everyone find you?
Hey, at least once a week. That's pretty regular. That's more regular than this fucking podcast.
Just teasing you a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's right. You can go and see our videos on YouTube at Taliesin and Evitel do games, and also you can watch our stream at Taliesin and Evitel. That's on Twitch, and also you can join on Twitter with us and learn about all of those. We'll tell you when we've got a video out. We'll tell you when we're on stream. That's kind of like, you know, our central hub. That's like our Ouroboros is our Twitter, so you can go there, and that's Taliesin and Evitel. Quite easy. It's just our names. It's easy, really, isn't it?
I mean, throw all the shade you want, but I would like the record to show that this show doesn't happen because of Taliesin, except when it doesn't happen because of me.
I feel like, yeah. And either way, we're going to blame the other ones. So it's like carrying a sofa up the stairs. You know, when you're carrying a sofa up the stairs, or couch, I guess you'd call it, and, you know, you're like, oh, I'm taking all of the weight of this sofa. That other guy, he is not pulling his weight on this sofa. And the other guy is thinking the exact same thing. The other guy's like, I'm taking all the weight. I'm down here. I'm taking all this weight. This other guy,
you just don't admit it. You just don't admit the fact that we've probably pushed as many episodes because of me as we have because of you.
I just feel like it's that thing. It's just that thing, you know. You always, I think, yeah. When we have to cancel WoW Killer, it's always Garrett's fault. Just bear that in mind. That guy not pulling his weight. All he does is record all the episodes and put them all up on the places. It's easy. I only don't do it because it's too easy. It'd be insulting. Otherwise, I'd do it. If it was harder, I'd do it. But it's too easy.
Yeah. Folks, I'm Garrett on Twitter. This podcast and every other one that I make can be found over at amove.tv. There's some stuff going down in Hearthstone, so you should check out the Angry Chicken. Here's the Storm is getting Hogger. They're getting it's out. Hogger released in Here's the Storm yesterday, so you should also check out Into the Nexus.
Here's the Storm is so hog right now.
So hog?
So hog right now.
So hog. So very, very hog. If this is a phrase, has eluded me in my boomer ass. So, folks, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy your next week in Shadowlands, assuming that we'll record an episode next week, but we'll see what happens. But until the next time we convene, depending on who pulls their weight on the couch moving metaphor,
Pivot.
Good luck, have fun, and please someone tell me what the hell happened to Uther.